Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate. Well, another politician has died. Henry Kissinger from the Nixon administration back in the 70s. And he died at 100. He was probably one of the more outspoken secretaries of state that our government has had in recent times. And probably most of you have never heard of Henry Kissinger. Uh, I remember him back in the days because him and Richard Nixon were running the country. But one of the biggest things that Henry Kissinger did for the Nixon administration and America was restore relations with China back then. And it was one of the first steps that America took after the war to restore uh, relations with the biggest Asian country out there. And it was real interesting. I remember the biggest thing that ever came out of that restored relationship was China sent giant pandas to America as goodwill ambassadors representing their country. And those panda bears were on loan. And just this year alone, a lot of the panda bears, their time here has ended. It's been a long time since 1972, and a lot of them, the panda bears that were sent here, will probably not remember their homeland much because they've been here in American zoos and fed for a majority of their life. But it's interesting, and we had fairly good relations with China up until POTUS 45. POTUS 45 really destroyed relations with China and America, and China is one of our biggest suppliers, and that's a problem. We sent a lot of our manufacturing over to China as part of the trade because of the trade imbalance. Also brought up NAFTA. So there were a lot of trade agreements that came about since 1972 because of the restored relationship with China. And so right now, America Biden administration is also trying to restore that relationship that we once had that was very positive. And so it's going to be interesting to see what's going to become of China. But then also we have some conflicts with that very same country. Xi Jinping has said that Taiwan is part of China, and yet America doesn't agree with that, and I don't agree with that. The nations are very independent, and I do realize, and you have to realize that Taiwan was at one time, back a long time ago, for a very short time, the country was also known as Formosa back in right after the war, because I remember having an old globe. Do you remember those? The globes that showed the world to you. And I had one that was from World War II, and it showed the world at that time, all the countries and everything. And Taiwan was not named Taiwan. It was actually for a while named Formosa. And so that's one of the very first things that I remember growing up, the country of Formosa, and then how it became Taiwan was very interesting. So, but anyway, Henry Kissinger, while a lot of people may not like him, He wasn't. He became an American citizen. Uh, Him and his family immigrated from Germany before World War II at the startup uh, uh, in Europe, and so he immigrated. He's Henry Kissinger uh, is Jewish and German, and so he came here just like a lot of our immigrants do, in hopes for a better future and to escape um, what what politics was going on in Germany at the time. And a lot of our immigrants today are doing the same thing, fleeing tyranny, fleeing gangs, fleeing murders, fleeing war. And so Henry Kissinger, whether you like him or not, he did do a lot of good for our country. And while we can't say the same for his boss, Richard Nixon, who resigned in shame, and then we ended up with Mr. Clumsy Gerald Ford. So uh, it was a very difficult time in American history back then, and I lived through it, and I see the effects of it today. So I do I have supported Henry Kissinger for a lot of the things that he did while under the Nixon administration. While I did not support all of his things that he did under the administration, restoration with China's and the relationship uh, and partnership that they built uh, from that era remains today, but it's been strained because of other administrations. POTUS 45 put a lot of strain on that relationship, and Biden has done a lot to try and restore that. So we'll see what happens. But 100 years, that's living a long time. He was one of the longest living past Secretary of State and Secretary of earlier Secretary of Defense for our country. So a lot of the old politicians are passing away. Soon we'll be seeing uh, Jimmy Carter, who will be passing away. His wife, Rosalind, she just passed away, and services were just held for her. So we're seeing a lot of the old politicians who did good and also a lot of harm, passing on. And we need to get rid of a lot of these old politicians. We need new, fresh blood to lead us into the future. Thank you for joining me. We'll be right back.